Before episode 3 starts, I just wanted to say thank you guys, for the recent support because I've gained around 60 subscribers since the last episode. Like, episode 2, I was at 15 subscribers, and then all of a sudden, I gained 60 subscribers. I'm at 74 subscribers at the time I'm recording this. So, just thank you guys, and hopefully, you guys like episode 3. Welcome to episode 3 of Everything Sports with Aman, and I'm your host, Aman Nadkarni, and I'm going to talk about the AFC and NFC Championship, Australia versus India Test Series in cricket, Fantasy Minute, where I tell you guys the best waiver wire pickups for your fantasy basketball team, Manchester United being on fire, and the Nets' big three struggling in their first game playing together against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now, here to talk about the AFC Championship is a sports fan with my friend Joseph Chu.
I think one of the biggest strengths that the Bills have in this game is their wide receiver core, as well as their chemistry they have with star quarterback Josh Allen, along with the leader of that wide receiver group, Stephon Diggs. I think this wide receiver is too much to handle, and I don't think anyone can take these guys down. They have such a good chemistry with the quarterback and a great offensive line to just block for Josh Allen, protect him. But one of their biggest weaknesses is their defense, which I don't think that they can do a good job of 60 minutes defending the Legion of Zoom in the Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. With that being said, the Chiefs' biggest strengths in this game is their wide receiver core, of course, because they have one of the fastest wide receivers in NFL history. And I don't think anyone on defense can be able to stay in front of those guys for the entire game, especially with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. But one of their weaknesses in this game, which I think will cost them, is their defense, which I have no plans in thinking that they can be able to stay in front of any of the Bills' offense, especially with their wide receivers. And defensive tackles on the Chiefs cannot get past the Bills' offensive line and sack Josh Allen. And also, one of their biggest weaknesses is their quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, who is also very injured, and I don't think he can be mobile. He's not going to scramble well. He's going to throw terribly. The defense is going to give up 500 yards on passing, 200 on rushing, and going to give up a lot of touchdowns.
All right, so he's clearly a Chiefs hater. So how many points do you think the Bills will win by?
Bills are winning by 32.
All right, that is clearly the definition of a Chiefs hater, but that is besides the point. On the NFC side, the Packers' strength is Aaron Rodgers and that offense because, man, are they amazing to watch. They crushed the Rams, and if they can continue that streak of just pure amazingness, then they're going to win this game. But their weakness, their defense has to step it up. It's the NFC Championship. It's time now that they can prove they are the defense to stop Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and the weapons on his side. And those weapons on Brady's side is the Buccaneers' strength. If those weapons aren't doing well, then Brady's not going to do well. Then it's just going to fall apart for the Buccaneers. So they have to stay ready and continue what they are doing if they have any chance of beating the Green Bay Packers. So Tom Brady, definitely a strength for them. And for the Buccaneers' weakness, I think it's their defense because sometimes it's stagnant. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're bad. Sometimes they're ugly. Sometimes they're average. They're just all over the place. If you have any chance of winning this game, they need to contain Aaron Rodgers and not let him pass for too much. But other than that, taking all things into consideration, I think the Packers are going to win because Aaron Rodgers playing in Lambeau Field. It's the first time Packers game is in Lambeau Field since Brett Favre was with the Packers, and Packers are going to win by 10. I'm taking them by 10. And according to my Instagram followers, the Packers have a 67% chance of winning and the Buccaneers have a 33% chance of winning. And interestingly enough, the same result here. The Bills have 33% chance winning and the Chiefs have 67% chance of winning according to my Instagram followers. We'll see what happens, but other than that, Joseph, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And now that we are done talking about the NFL, we go to the cricket world where India finished touring Australia in a test series to remember for the ages. It was genuinely such a legendary series. Like, India's backs were against the wall. They suffered so many injuries, so much adversity, and they still toughed it out and actually beat Australia. What a talented Australian team with Steve Smith, David Warner, Matthew Wade, Marnus Labuschagne, Pat Cummins, can't forget him, Cam Green, Josh Hazelwood, Nathan Lyon, like so many good Australian players for this test team. I thought there was no way in heck India would win. How do you beat that team without your star players? Literally. It started with Rohit Sharma being out with a lingering injury from the IPL. Virat Kohli, good for him, gets a baby, needs to leave because getting a baby, you're obviously not going to play. And then just injuries kept piling on. Hanuma Vihari, torn hamstring. Ravi Chandran Ashwin got hurt. Stress fracture in the right back for Jasprit Bumrah, right thumb fracture for Ravindra Jadeja. Like, Jadeja, it was a huge loss because he's a decent batsman, good bowler, and one of the best fielders ever. And then Hanuma Vihari literally running 22 yards from crease to crease, crease to crease, crease to crease. Every single run with the torn hamstring. How in the world do you do that? He has to be so tough for that. He's so courageous for doing that. And I thank him for doing that because India ended up winning due to those kind of efforts from these Indian players. And with all these injuries, who had to step up? They're young players. Rishabh Pant, Shardul Thakur, Saini, Washington Sundar. Washington Sundar, Shardul Thakur, I trash talk them in addition to Saini because their bowling economies aren't honestly that great. But in the end, they actually batted well. They got 70 runs or something like that in one innings. That shocked me, and they just proved me wrong. And I hate being proved wrong, but in this case, I was happy that I was proved wrong and ecstatic that India pulled out the win. And Chiteshwar Pujara, he was getting battered. He was getting hit on the back, the leg, the fingers. Like, he was getting hit everywhere. And he was just blunting the ball, making bowlers require more power to bowl a good ball because he just kept hitting it, not even getting runs after it. At one point, he had like 10 runs in 100 balls, which is just insane how you get 10 runs and only 100 balls, literally 100 balls bowled to you, and you get 10 runs. Like, honestly, don't know how that even happened, but it worked at the end of the day because you got guys on the other side like Rishabh Pant, who I told my dad, I'm like, once Pujara gets out, he should turn it on, and if Pant gets out, then go for the tie. But Pant stayed, he smacked, went into T20 mode, and India got the win. And captaining all this, Ajinkya Rahane, he did super as captain of the Indian team without Virat Kohli. And many people are saying Kohli should just focus on batting and not worry about captaincy because clearly Ajinkya Rahane can handle it. And I actually agree with him. Virat Kohli went from being one of my favorite players to one of my least favorite players for the simple fact that he became captain. Not every star player is fit to be a captain and to lead a team. Who could be a star and still not lead the team. And this is Kohli's role. He should really not be captain, and he can focus on batting. His batting will get better, and when his batting gets better, India will get better. Anyone could be captain on that India team, but Kohli cannot be captain anymore, is my opinion on that. And now with that, we go to Fantasy Minute, where I take a minute explaining 10 players you guys should add to your fantasy basketball team in PPR leagues. And without further ado, let's take a minute reviewing these players. Shake Milton, Goran Dragic, Milton Sixers, Dragic Heat, Milton 48.7% roster, Dragic 46.1% roster. they're really good point guards to add to your team if you need scoring. Will Barton, Lugens Dort, Barton 41.6% rostered, Dort 20% rostered. They're great shooting guards, especially for defense and a combination of shooting if your team needs that. Terrence Ross, Chetty Osman, Ross 42.6% rostered, Osman 19.6% rostered. They're great additions to your team, especially if you want, again, a combination of offense and defense. Marvin Bagley has been an up and down year, 46.5% rostered. You can get him if you want to, but I would advise not to. Gallinari, I'm surprised he's only 40% rostered because he's pretty good. And then get Lopez and Canner because you can never get so much rebounding on your team. With that, that is Fantasy Minute. And now we go to Manchester United in the Premier League. It's honestly amazing the way that they have been performing this Premier League season because Paul Pogba was about to leave and now they are rolling in the Premier League. To put that in this perspective, the last 5 games they have won 4 and then tied once, and they are just on fire. And the team that's not on fire, Liverpool, has to get it together because their next Premier League game is against Tottenham, and Tottenham is the 5th spot right now. And if Liverpool loses, then they are out of the top 4. Not permanently, but for the time being, they're out of the top 4 if they lose to Tottenham. Liverpool's last 5 games, they have lost twice and drawn 3 times. And then if they win the game, they're still 4th. They are still 4th because Leicester City, 38 points. The last 5 games, they've won 3, drawn twice. But then Man City, currently on a roll, won all of their last 5 games, 2 points behind Manchester United. But you look at these teams, and can you really say that Liverpool matches up well against them? This season, you can say they can't, but last season, you definitely can say they could because Virgil van Dijk last season, let's not forget, he was Ballon d'Or nominee next to the greatest players to ever live in Ronaldo and Messi. If you're in that company and then honestly not doing too well for Liverpool, then that's honestly a pretty big problem. I don't see how they can be first because of this, but all they have to do is pick it up and then stay top 4 and win it out in UEFA because I know they can. They've been such a great soccer team, and this is just uncharacteristic of Liverpool. And Liverpool's last loss, their last game, it was frankly embarrassing. And the team that they lost to, they lost 1-0 to Burnley. And if you ask me, what place is Burnley in the Premier League? They are 16th. They are 7 points in front of relegation. They are not doing well at all. And they just beat Liverpool, one of the best teams in soccer. I don't know how that happened. Like, Liverpool, it's just embarrassing. I keep saying embarrassing because that's what it is. No one picked Burnley to win other than Burnley fans themselves. I don't. Mo Salah needs to pick it up. Their guys need to pick it up. Otherwise, they're not going to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. It's it's disappointing the way Liverpool has been, but got to look at Manchester United. Props to them. Bruno Fernandes, Rashford. Their last loss, their last Premier League loss. Take out the FA Cup and EFL Cup in consideration. Take all that out. Their last loss in the Premier League came on November 1st, which was against Arsenal. But then they beat Everton, they beat West Brom, they beat Southampton, they beat West Ham, they tied to Man City, they beat Sheffield United by 1, they wrecked Leeds United, they tied to Leicester, they beat the Wolves, they beat Aston Villa. They're just beating teams left and right, and they tied to Liverpool. Other game, Liverpool wanted back, couldn't. But give props to Man U. Man U continue, and then they'll be first in the Premier League, but then Liverpool needs to definitely pick it up. And now we're done with that. We go to Brooklyn Nets, big three. Kyrie Irving's back. I don't know if y'all saw that. Horrible defensive show for the Brooklyn Nets. Like, if you like defense, you shouldn't have seen the Nets Cavaliers game because that, frankly, was an embarrassment of defense, particularly by the Brooklyn Nets. You allow Colin Sexton to get a cool career high. I believe he got 42 points. He dropped on the Brooklyn Nets. And I honestly thought with the amount of firepower the Brooklyn Nets have, there's no way the Cavaliers, out of all teams, are beating them because of the offense, the simple offense that the Nets had, and Kyrie, KD, and James Harden. And in addition to the defense, you know what I'm gonna say? Harden needs to shoot more shots than Kyrie. Kyrie cannot be the only one shooting the double amount of shots than James Harden. And today, the Cleveland Cavaliers face off against the Nets right now as I'm recording this. Kevin Durant is out. So James Harden, Kyrie clearly need to step it up. But the Nets big three, they need to find a defensive player who can play defense. They just need that. Jarrett Allen was that guy. He knocked DeAndre Jordan out of the rotation. And now, simply because of this horrible trade, wasn't horrible, but because of this trade, you give up Jarrett Allen. You should have given up Joe Harris instead. Jarrett Allen played defense. The only guy on that team that played defense. And then DeAndre Jordan all of a sudden becomes a starter like that when he literally fell out of the rotation. Out of 10 people that play, around that 9-10 players, DeAndre Jordan fell out of the rotation, suddenly becomes a starter when Jarrett Allen gets traded. You need someone to play defense. Otherwise, you're not going to win games, and you're going to allow Cleveland Cavaliers, who's the worst offense, second worst offense in the league, to drop 147 on you guys. So they need defense. Harden needs to step it up. Kyrie needs to be the third option. Harden needs to be the second option. And Kevin Durant needs to stay as the first option in order for Brooklyn Nets to win a championship. They might be, honestly, they're a borderline finals team. Borderline. And Harden's career, he's just been to West semis, Western Conference finals. Kevin Durant came to the Warriors, won a ring. Kyrie got help from a LeBron, won a ring. So they have experience. I'm not saying they don't. They just need Kyrie to take a backseat. Kyrie needs to understand that. I know he may not because him and KD, it was going to be him and KD, but now it's him, KD, and Harden. Like, that was just me more. Kyrie went from being Robin to being Alfred the Butler. So, like, honestly, be Alfred the Butler if that's what it takes for your team to win. And that's what it'll take to win, in addition to getting guys for your defense. And with that, that'll end episode 3 of Everything Sports with Aman. Make sure to follow my new Instagram page. It'll be in the description below. And stay tuned next Friday for episode 4.